Hey, how are you? I hope you're all good. Welcome back to this weird and wonderful world of art. What we're doing today is blending. We're going to do something like this, simple and practicing blending hot colors, yellows, reds, and oranges into one another, and blues, purples, and greens into one another. I set up my palette. Here we go. There's my hot colors. Remember hot colors, sun, think sunset, yellow, orange, red. My cool colors, green, blue, and purple. So here are the color wheel again. Your warm tones, yellow, oranges, red. Your cool tones, greens, purples, and blues. Here's my palette. Warm colors, yellow, oranges, red, green, blue, and purple. I'm simply going to start with the yellows, with putting them on the board. Now I have a little problem here. You see this board is a little bit of dirt, so we're just going to ignore that for now. But here's my yellows, and I'm just going to put the yellow on. Try to get that covered. If you ever want to cover a spot, you can simply take white acrylic, put it over and let it dry. But I'm just going to put this down right now. Then I'm going to take my orange, next color, and I'm going to go into it while the yellow is wet. And I'm going to lightly run my brush over it, very lightly, till I get a blend, okay? A nice blend. And you can work it back and forth, back and forth. I can go like this, I can move my brush like this, okay, till I get a nice blend going. Then I'm going to take my darker red. I might have to add a little water to it because it's getting drier, and put that in right through here. Now I'm going to stop probably about there. So I'm going to just pull this like this, my red, 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 move up into here. I sometimes have to always have your paper towels handy and rub this, because now I want it to thin out a little bit as I'm starting to approach the orange. Okay, starting to approach. My brush is going to get thinner. I might take a little more of the orange and start to work that in. Okay, and I'm starting to get a nice blend as I move into the color on top. Okay, and now I'm getting a nice blend here of my tones as I move into here, lighter, 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 lighter. And there's my beautiful blend. Okay, so now I'll start my second section of color, and if you want, another approach is to mix it with a little white first, then your base color, a little white first, then your base color. So I'll show you this approach. This is another nice way to do it. Let's say I start right about here with my light green. Okay, putting my light green in. And it gives you a way actually to play with the paint a little and get the flow of the paint. Then I'll take my dark green as I blend. It's all practice in blending. Okay, go back and forth. I might want to wipe if there's too much on the brush and I want to blend a little bit more. Then I might go into my lighter blue. That's why it's kind of nice maybe mixing up two colors. That's up to you. Might be easier for you to do it this way. But to do this, coming through. Now I'm going to blend into that green a bit. And again, this is all practice. It's all a lot of practice. I'm going to get a little bit darker as I move into my darker blue paint. As I pull into this. And you might want to experiment with how much water you put on the brush, how much paint you put on the brush. You might have to try this a couple of times till you get it right. You know, one good thing about acrylic paint, once it dries, you can paint right over it. So if you have something and you don't like it, you can paint right over it. That's a little light, so I'm going to go darker. And now I'll go right into my purple. Darker blue, go straight into purple. There we go. Blending, keep the brush wet pretty much of the time. And look at that, I'm getting a really beautiful blend into my final purple. Now that's a little light on the bottom, so I'll go into it with some straight purple. There we go. And it's darker. And that's basically what you want to do, okay? A nice blend. Play with it. Now I can go back a little bit because I'm not happy with this. I want to get this out a little bit, and I can just finish doing this and make an absolutely beautiful blend. All right, so that's what you want to do for your first project. Okay, so now I still have my paint here, and because I put the retarder in, it's wet, so I can still use it. I'm going to shade this round circle to make it look like a three-dimensional ball. How to do that? Light, medium, and dark. Two different ways you can do it. Here's some white. There's my red. I can just mix up a white. Okay, take a little bit of red, make a medium red. So I've got a kind of a pink. Maybe I'll make it a little lighter. And now I make a very, very light red, super light red. I might have to add a tid more white into this. Okay. And same thing, we're going to blend. A million ways you can do this. You can start out with the middle tone first. Make sure your brush is nice and clean. Got to get that brush clean. Actually, I think I'll go over here. Okay, middle tone. This might take you longer than it takes me. So here's my middle tone on the red. Pretty color, I love pink. It's kind of a pink. Okay, already. Here we go. I'm going to keep the lighter, there's my red, pink. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of the darker. I'm going to put it in like this, shade it up. Okay, maybe take it a little bit more over here. And notice I'm allowing it to blend into that middle tone. Wipe my brush if it's too much paint on the brush. Already you see a 3 dimensions starting. And I'm going to take the really light pink, or maybe even some straight white, and put it right there. And voila. Within 2 seconds, you really have a shaded ball. Now I can work it as much as I want. I can pull it in a little bit more. I can pull it around here a little bit more. Take a little bit more of this red, put it on the bottom. Whoop, didn't come out, so I'll do it again. Here we go. Okay, put a little shadow. And I have a very nicely shaded ball with light on one side and dark on the other. Okay. Get a nice 3-dimensional look to it. And again, as I said, you can work this as much as you want. Okay. Okay, so here I have another ball. I started it the same way. I have my pink, I have my white. Now, what I suggest is instead of going with just the straight red, use its complement, a little bit of the green, and put that in with your red, and watch what happens. It becomes darker, and you'll get a lot more contrast to it. Okay? Because when you add, and you know that from your last project, when you add a complementary to a color, it makes it darker and gives it a gray tone. So I can do something like this. I'm going to dry my brush. Then move maybe into it with my regular red. And I'll get a ball that's 3-dimensional with a lot more contrast. All right. I'll go back to my white and make that highlight a little bit whiter. Wow. So the lighter, I make the highlight, okay? The darker, I make the dark. The more 3-dimension I get on an object. That's the trick. Put a little shadow here. And I have a very nicely shaded ball. Quickly done. I can work it back and forth as much as I want. And it's 3-dimensional. All right, so I'm back. As you see, I already shaded the second blue flat circle and made it into a 3-dimensional ball, just with my blue middle, my white, and my dark blue. Looks great. So what I did on the second one is the same thing that I did for the red. I went to the opposite color of blue, orange, and I added that in with my blue, and I get a darker gray, and I get more of a dimension. Okay? So that's what you want to try on the second one. Okay, so Now I also did it with the yellow. I cheated a little on the yellow because the yellow is such a light color. In the dark of the yellow, I added a tad of orange, which you could see. Okay? But when I did the dark part of the yellow on the second circle, I added its opposite color, purple. And again, once again, get much more contrast. So this is what I'd like you to do. Something like this. Use red, blue. If yellow is too much of a pain, try a green or try an orange. And always use the opposite color in the second bowl to shade it with. All right? We're practicing blending. I can't wait to see your work. There's a PowerPoint with all of this, again, in detail, and a little information about hot and cool color. And again, this is a prelude to the painting we'll be doing later on. So this is due next week. All righty? Have a great, great day.